Greetings. Today is November 28, 2016, and I'm addressing this to future generations. I don't know how far out, but history will be looking back, and they're going to be looking back at the events that took place in 2016 and 2017, and they, they, they want to know what has kind of all happened, how did all this kind of happen? And researchers and historians are going to be writing about this, and it's going to be very difficult because it's not like normal history that you can write about, because it's going to involve things that are supernatural, things that come from the heavens, basically. And that how do you write about that as a historian, right? So a lot of people from the future are going to be looking back, trying to piece things together. And maybe I have found my purpose is to provide some kind of context to things. Not that it's going to be, the perfect context, but it's going to be a context nonetheless. And I think there are other people who will be crafting things together to write about what is happening right now. And so I kind of want to shed some light to what things that I see that are going on right now. But it's going to be kind of hard for the future to understand, because if you're not living that particular moment, it's difficult to understand kind of the atmosphere that's going on. You kind of have to be there to feel the atmosphere. And with television and recordings, things, people will get a better insight of the feel of how things are going on. So what I would like to discuss are two topics. One, what's going on recently in the news, and that is with the Green Party candidate, Jill Stein. And for the future, I'm pretty sure the Green Party is going to exist in the future, but for the future listening in, there's two major parties right now. There's the Democrat Party and there's the Republican Party. And then there's these other parties like the Green Party and Libertarian Party, very small, barely put a dent in the presidential election or any election. But nonetheless, they exist. Okay, so there was a presidential election. Donald Trump had won, and he had won 3 states that normally would have probably gone to, the Democrat Party. It was Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And in this presidential election, Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, and he won those electoral votes, which, ultimately led him to winning the election. So why does Jill Stein want to do a recount? Even in the best case scenario where they do the recount and she won some extra votes, she cannot win a presidency whatsoever. Ever. I mean, it is not just a 0% chance. It's like in the negatives, really. There's just no way. So, it's a logical question. Why would you pursue a path where the outcome's not going to change anything for you? It's a logical question, right? It's a lot of wasted time and resources to do all that kind of stuff. But the one person that does benefit is Hillary Clinton in some form. You see, it's a long shot, yes. They do a recount. Let's say some votes actually flip for Hillary Clinton. Now, in the theoretical realm, that when they do the recount, they find out more flips, that Hillary Clinton actually got more votes in all 3 states, miraculously somehow. And that would give then the Electoral College votes to Hillary Clinton. Now, that's a long shot. It is. It's a long shot. But it's the only card the Clinton campaign has left to play. You see, I think the short-term goal is to get enough votes, miraculously coming from where, I don't know, to create some kind of controversy. And hopefully that controversy will spire into something else. Maybe it would be taken to the courts. And somehow, by some miracle, that the election and the electoral college votes would go to Hillary Clinton. It's a long shot, but it's a desperate long shot, but one that they want to pursue because it doesn't make any sense, ladies and gentlemen, that Jill Stein in these three particular states, the only person who stands to gain is Hillary Clinton. So one has to imagine that Hillary Clinton has somehow, or the campaign has somehow contacted the Green Party candidate Jill Stein and somehow, in a way, convinced her to do it, which means that Jill Stein is bought, basically. Now, what does Jill Stein ultimately gain from this money? You see, it costs money to ask for a recount. Okay, it's not just something you demand you get for free. You raise enough money and you're willing to pay for it, then you can get a recount. And it's you have to be within a certain percentage points or something like that. Or there has to be a margin of error, I believe, that first can initiate, and then you have to be able to have the money to do it. So she raised money, so that's what she benefits from it, and perhaps for the future run, I don't know, or for herself, I don't know. So that money, who knows where it came from donors, I would think mainly from the Hillary Clinton camp, has raised money somehow for her. So that's what she benefits. She knows she's not going to win the presidency for 2017. She knows that. Human nature, you can reason that out. So that's what she gains out of this, is the money part. Where Hillary gains is that hopefully it'll create enough controversy that will lead to something else in hopes that somehow she can still gain the presidency. So that's the kind of tactics she's playing. Now, for the future, I want you to research on your own the third debate where it was asked to Donald Trump if he would concede that the election results came out in the favor of Hillary Clinton. And what Donald Trump has said was that he would wait till that time comes and make that decision. And the media harped on him. Hillary Clinton, in response, harped on him. And you should watch it yourself because it's very almost hypocritical in a way. She changed her tune. She really was saying, basically condemning what he had just said about wait and seeing, about the results. She was being very self-righteous. And I encourage you to watch it herself. And then taking this in the context that she had changed her tune all of a sudden. Now she's the one. She is the one that is kind of contesting the results. Very ironic, right? But which kind of tells the kind of person that Hillary Clinton is. She's not a person that you cannot rely on her word. It means nothing. Rules never mean anything to Hillary Clinton, which is why she's just fundamentally just, the word evil is strong, but nothing gets in her way, and she's very ambitious, and she's just a very wrong person. Okay, so why do I want to let the future know about all this? Well, what I want to let you know is that I'm going back to my earlier premise that Donald Trump is God's anointed one, and everything's converging to 2017. This big war of good versus evil is going to take place. I truly believe in 2017, and that God is playing chess with Satan, and he's putting position the people that he wants to take on this huge war that is going to be waged. That many people don't realize that it's been going on to begin with, but the culmination is going to happen in 2017. And I know I said I'll explain why this is going to be the year. So, God has plans for Donald Trump. And maybe Donald Trump doesn't realize that himself, but he has plans for him. He needs somebody strong strong-willed, someone that's going to, take no nonsense and fire and get rid of and go after people who are done evil things. So Jill Stein and Hillary Clinton are just trying to get in the way of God's plans. So if you can get where I'm leaning towards to, nobody's going to get in the way of God. Okay, nobody. So, Jill Stein is within your right, but I think you're pursuing a devious path because it's not an honest path, and you're gonna, I think, only take a path towards misery, as well as you, Hillary Clinton. Doesn't mean that God doesn't love you, Jill Stein, or Hillary Clinton. He's given people a chance to make choices on their own, but you're taking a path that goes against God's will, and so that whatever you do isn't going to change the results, but it might only make him more angry, I guess, And so, because these are dishonest motives, I, you're let's just say that I think you're just going to double down on your misery. Okay, I it'd be interesting to watch in the next few months what's going to happen, and what will happen to Jill Stein in a way that I think there's going to be fallout, some kind of small scandal involving her, and it's going to basically boil down to her betraying her own principles that she's been vocal about. And as far as Hillary Clinton's concerned, again, God is a compassionate God, and he gives everybody a shot, but there's only so much that so much leeway he can give. Now, free will, and everybody has free will to choose what they do, and a lot of people don't kind of understand the concept of free will. And what it has come to me about free will is that it is a way of God deciding who's good and who's evil. You see, God doesn't. People think that God makes that judgment, but it's really we as human beings make judgment for ourselves by our actions and by what we do. And God knows every one of us. It doesn't matter who we are, but He gives us all a chance. Yes, we do wrong, and yes, we can decide whether we want to continue doing wrong, or we just want to pursue this path of evil. So He gives everybody a chance, to even include Hillary Clinton, but she's pushing her luck, really. So that's what free will is that it is a way of kind of separating ourselves individually in the category of good and evil, and ultimately God will be the judge of that. So, again, what we're going to see here is that Hillary Clinton will once again fail, and she'll perhaps fail miserably. But again, we're going to have to see how those events unfold. So for the future generation that's listening in, again, when these events kind of unfold, I will discuss them, and then you can kind of listen to lead you to wonder, how am I all able to say all this kind of stuff, and you put two and two together, as the events unfold. My next topic, so the first topic was, that Hillary and Jill Stein, their attempt to thwart God's plan will fail, and it will lead to their demise in some way or some form. And this goes to going against the will of God, right? And the premise is that Donald Trump is God's anointed one. Okay. So the next topic, and this is a very difficult topic to talk about. It's disturbed me quite a bit. but it's something that I needed to see and learn about, because I do believe it is happening, and that evil is very well entrenched in Washington somehow. When I say evil, I'm talking about like satanic cult stuff going on. Okay, and if you think about it, satanic cults, they're gonna gravitate towards areas that have or accumulated power, because then they view that once they can get in or have access into it, they can somehow control or spread. So it doesn't surprise me that, if you look at Scientology, they're not going to go to preach to a bunch of homeless people. They gravitate towards where there's power, right? And in Hollywood, they found a niche, and that brings in a lot of money, but it's power for them. And ultimately, organizations like that, it doesn't matter if you're radical Islam, you gravitate towards those areas where you can try to control people. And so we shouldn't be surprised that the satanic cult movement has a base in Washington. Okay, if you're interested, if you're the type of organization that's interested in promoting your cause, you go to the power source where there's a lot of power. Okay, so for those in the future listening in, what's going on too that hasn't made the major networks, and I'm not sure why, maybe because the media is corrupted too, it's this thing called Pizzagate, and I need to explain what that is. During the 2016 election, the organization called WikiLeaks had disclosed some emails from the Hillary Clinton campaign, the DNC, and it highlighted different things. One was a conspiracy to rig the Democrat convention to favor Hillary Clinton. One was that revealed that certain debate questions were leaked out ahead of time to Hillary Clinton. But something else that kind of came about that wasn't really discussed at all, because it's so odd, was this thing, coded language that was found within a certain group of people. John Podesta, some guy that owned some kind of pizza shop out near the Capitol or Washington D.C. somewhere, and it was just strange language that was being used. Had references to pizza and pasta and things like that. It's just stuff that normal people just don't talk about randomly, or even in a normal conversation, the way they had used it. So if you're listening in from the future, I encourage you to look it up yourself, and because by the time it gets to you, this scandal will already officially be I think, in the news. So they were using coded language, and people were putting it together, and they dubbed this thing called Pizzagate, because a lot of the activity seems to be stemming at this one pizza place, and not just that one particular pizza place called Comet Pizza, but just within that area, there seems to be some strange activity going on, and people have pointed out that there was pedophilia activity and some kind of satanic worshiping going on. And they deciphered that through the emails based on the language. And when they were able to find out who sent these emails, they went to look at the social media that they had, accounts that they had, Twitter and Instagram, and these people were posting kind of weird photos of things that just don't seem like normal people would accept, of kids, just just innuendos, and of strange things. I encourage you to kind of research it yourself. And so the belief was that there's some kind of pedophilia ring going on between the powers in Washington. Now, before I go into that, in my last recording, I talked about another documentary that was done about another pedophile ring. Okay, and I didn't know what the topic was about. I was watching Hillary Clinton coverage, meltdown. People were melting down on the media, and there's this thing called Open Secret, and it was in the suggested videos of on YouTube, and I was just curious to see what it was about, and it was about the Hollywood pedophilia ring that was going on with people in power, people with a lot of money, and people with power, and that those people still exist. And even months back before that, Corey Feldman, a child actor, a one-time child actor, uh, had said that you know pedophilia is still alive, going on in Hollywood, and certain people still exist. And he wouldn't name names, and I can understand his position because he too was a victim, and he talked about his friend Corey Haim, who was molested and raped, who later died. I believe a drug overdose. Because all the craziness that was going on in his life that he had to deal with. And Corey Feldman had, recently gave an interview that these people still exist. So the documentary, a lot of these people were caught and some convicted, but they still, they served their time and sentence, and they still exist, in the industry. So it made me realize that if it can happen in Hollywood, it can certainly happen in Washington. Again, there's power in Hollywood, with money. There's definitely power in Washington. And when people have that kind of power and money, they and they have, low morals, temptation's easy to get to these people. And unfortunately, there's a lot of bad people who know about, who gravitate towards power, and they slowly worked their way in and got a foothold, I believe, into the Washington elite. And so Open Secret was very disheartening, and I encourage you to watch it for those in the future. But it made me realize that it's very possible to happen in Washington, and this Pizzagate thing isn't something that's far-fetched after all. Okay, and so this code of language that they're using to discuss certain activity, uh, pedophilia activity, which doesn't surprise me that they would do that in the email. If you think about it, you have to understand, for those in the future, the NSA and the intelligence agencies can look at emails. They have computer algorithms that look at that and search for keywords, because this whole thing was brought up about 9/11, the terrorism activity in 9/11, about, jihadists trying to plot via email. And so, the government's given permission to peruse and to screen emails and look for coded messages. So you're not going to be upfront about pedophilia. You're going to use coded language. And so something strange is going on. And a lot of this is coming from the grassroots base, from WikiLeaks, but the mainstream media has avoided it, which leads me to believe that those in the media too are involved somehow, or certain people are, in this ring. Now, it wasn't just Hollywood that the pedophilia activity that's happened in Hollywood that led me to think to Washington. Another documentary, kind of a bootleg documentary, that was done on the pedophilia ring that happened in Nebraska during the 80s, probably early 90s too. And it happened, with officials, people with power, but it also led towards Washington. So, again, people with power, people in position of power who do these things. So it can definitely happen in Washington. And, I encourage, again, for those in the future to look up, if you type in, Lawrence King or Larry King, and Nebraska pedophilia, if you look up those terms, you can find it. And again, it happened. It happened in an area where there was a lot of power. And so it doesn't surprise me that there's this strange thing going on in Washington. And, everything's converging to 2017, you know. In the future, if you're also listening, during 2016, there are reports of exorcisms being done, meaning to say that people feel that there's some kind of evil within them, and they've asked the church or to conduct exorcism. We're seeing satanic cults on the rise, and everything seems to be building up towards the year 2017, and this horrendous activity of pedophilia connected with Satan worshiping. Um, Again, it may seem far-fetched for those who are living now, but you got to understand these people gravitate towards areas where there's power and hopes to somehow either control or to spread their beliefs. It's always their goal. They always have to aim for whatever reason. I mean, it makes sense. If you believe in your cause and your whatever you believe in, and you're that ambitious and you're that crooked, you try to gravitate towards the area where there's power. So everything's converging, and I say the final war is going to be waged in 2017. So Satan's the master here of evil, and a lot of things are going on in the world that are he's he has a hand in everything. And so, and this is just one element, the satanic movement, the hidden satanic movement in Washington and other parts of the world with evil activity such as pedophilia, and then the war is going on and all these other stuff that's going on. He has a play in it. So, the forces of evil are either being arrogant or getting desperate. They know, Satan himself knows that this is his final year, that he can, before judgment is placed upon the human race. And his main goal isn't to beat God. His main goal is to bring as many humans down as possible, because God loved us, and perhaps out of jealousy, he wants to bring us down, as many of us down as possible. And unfortunately, there would be a good number that will be brought down. So it's a matter of free will that we have that determine where we go. And so Satan is pretty much everywhere in temptation, and even I'm even tempted a lot too. So we're all in this battle together. And so everything's converging in 2017, I will get to that recording where why I say 2017 is it. So in the last recording, I had said that I believe there are people within the FBI and other agencies that know about this. Okay, but you got to understand too. There is reasonable fear within these agencies that they've also been infiltrated by people. You see, it makes sense that if you are a certain cult or organization that want to control, right, you have to infiltrate in certain agencies, the White House, the FBI, the media, right? Because then when something were to rise, like the scandal, they can all kind of cover for each other in some way or some form. That's how corruption works, okay? That's what evil people do. They know this kind of stuff. It's not something we should be surprised at, okay? But that cover isn't going to work anymore, okay? Because God is going to make his presence known. He's already started with anointing Donald Trump, okay? So there's elements within these agencies that I believe already know about Pizzagate, okay? But if you think about it, why they haven't come forward yet is because they also know that the current administration, they feel that the current administration will block any attempt to do so. And so they're waiting. They're waiting for the inauguration to happen. And when, the Republicans, the majority of them take control of the House and the Senate, and then Donald Trump taking the White House, then those people will come out, perhaps bypass their superiors, and confront the president about what's going on. And there's going to be a huge scandal in the wake of Donald Trump's presidency. It has nothing to do with him. It's about what is happening now. And you're going to see a lot of people within, I believe, in the DNC, but also in the Republican Party too, because, if you're that movement, that, that satanic movement, whatever, who want to keep this thing going, you have to corrupt both parties, right? And that's why it makes sense that Donald Trump was that even elements within the own Republican Party were against him, because it doesn't really matter, in these evil people, they're going to corrupt both parties, but Donald Trump threw their plan off the rails. Here's an outsider, never groomed by the political machine. See, when you're part of the political machine, these people have a chance to corrupt you in some way or form, and in some way kind of own you, in a way. But here's strictly an outsider, and now he's going to shake up a lot of things on both parties. So you're going to see people within both parties that are going to be identified, and this ring's going to be expose all this. It's going to expose a lot of people within the DNC, because I believe those type of people tend to gravitate towards areas that they feel safer, and the Democrat Party, they tend to turn a blind eye on a lot of things. So a lot of these people who are morally corrupt tend to gravitate towards that party. It doesn't mean that everybody in the Democrat Party, and it doesn't mean that there's going to be people in the Republican Party that are, they're all innocent. They're going to be people on both ends, but I think mostly within the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, in the party, and it's going to bring a lot of people down, as rightfully so. And this connection is going to spread wide into other areas, into Hollywood, and internationally. And, it needs to happen. But these people within the agencies of the FBI and other intelligence agencies, they know that if they brought it up now, that it will just get stifled by the current administration, which says something about it, right? So one thing that has happened, and I want to remind the future, that when the FBI was doing the investigation on Hillary Clinton on her private email server that she shouldn't have had, but she did as a Secretary of State, which goes beyond common sense, right? So during that process, her husband, former President Bill Clinton, met with the Attorney General on his airplane, and that looked very suspicious. Why would you just go out? Why, if you're the Attorney General, why would you just go out of your way to meet the former president, the husband of the presidential candidate who's being investigated? It just looked very suspicious. And, their answer was they were talking about grandchildren and all that kind of stuff. But then, fast forward, Hillary Clinton, James Comey, the FBI director, said that, they don't recommend any charges against her. So, one can conclude that, some kind of influence from, Hillary Clinton's husband towards the Attorney General was played out, right? It's very suspicious, and that's the nature of politics and power, right? Can't think that everything's just going to be all innocent. So I think there is an uproar within the FBI, good people who wanted to do good things and saw that happening and felt betrayed. And so they're not stupid too. They know if they bring it out now with President Obama's power to pardon while he still can, um, they feel safer, I think, when Donald Trump becomes president. And the scandal is going to come about, and it's going to nail a lot of people, and rightfully so. These people need to go down, and I know that the media is going to try to pin it on Donald Trump, somehow that he's involved, but it's going to have nothing to do with him. And um, again, 2017, the forces of evil and good are going to come to a climax, and this is just one part of it too. Just exposure of the scandal is just one part of it. Again, other things are going to happen that are just going to be beyond crazy, and I keep emphasizing that. Okay, so for you in the future listening, I'm trying to put it in the best context as possible, because you're going to want to listen to different people's point of view, and I don't think anybody's kind of taken this kind of point of view that I've taken. So it'd be it's just something that I think the future needs to kind of understand, and I wish I could do a better job of doing this. But I think there will be enough that you can kind of put the pieces together to kind of see what's going on. So anyway, we'll see what happens in the next few days, and what feel the sense of urgency to talk about. Today is November 28th, 2016. Signing off.